introduction. So welcome everyone to our webinar, the October webinar for the Early Career Investigator Committee. And we here at the International Society of Bone Morphometry, ISBM, we are interested in all aspects of quantitative assessment of bone across scales. And we have multiple working groups working on different aspects of our research. And here's our Early Career Committee, and we welcome everyone to our webinar. We do arrange webinars once a month. And our next webinar is going to be Thursday, November 25th. And this is going to be with Dr. Naomi Driggs, who's an assistant professor in the Department of Orthopedic Surgery in Washington University, St. Louis. And we are very excited for our next ISPM meeting, which is going to be in July 2026 in London, England. And we welcome Dr. Krista Mays for our keynote lecturer for this meeting. We have updated some of the meeting details, and so please mark your calendars and look into our website for updated information and details. And also follow us on LinkedIn, where we update our webinar schedule and everything else. And lastly, thank you to our 2025 corporate partner, AstraZeneca, for their support of this ISPM webinar series. And with this, we welcome today's speaker, Dr. Luke Johnston, who's a team leader at Steno Diabetes Center, Aarhus. So I'll stop share so you can go ahead. Thank you so much for agreeing to present in our webinar. Please go ahead.
Thank you. 1 second. See if this works. There we go. Okay, let me just rearrange this here. I think I have to move it. So yes, thanks. Thanks for the invitation. When Matilda asked me to give this little talk on the career paths and things, because I taught an R course and she attended, and a lot of my research path or my career path has kind of been, I guess, non-traditional in many ways. But I was thinking about the title of this talk, and something that I often like, especially because it's personal to me, is there's a lot more to research than just publications. And if you're familiar at all with like being in research, like, you know, the sayings like publish or perish, or like really it's like getting first author publications in your postdoc, and then like once you become like PI or whatever, it's like last author, and it's really a lot about publications. But I think what I wanted to kind of like emphasize, and especially since like this is more of a general career path panel, I think it's more of a general career path talk. I kind of just also want to emphasize or like reinforce that you're worth more than just the number of publications you have. And that's something that I also had to learn as I was going along. So that's kind of the overall aim of my talk. But yeah, as we go along, that's kind of the thing that I want to reinforce is there's a lot more to research than just publications. And the number of publications that you have isn't your only or even your biggest metric of success. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my career path, and then because this is about careers, I wanted to also highlight some areas that I've noticed like that are big gaps in research that you can definitely specialize in for your own career. And I think these gaps also apply to outside of research in like industry and outside of academia that is also in industry. So a little bit about me. I'm sorry, what was your name again? I can't even see you on the little screen here. Anyway, as I was introduced, my name is Luke. I come from Canada, and I've done a master's and a PhD in nutritional sciences. It was mostly around diabetes epidemiology that I did my research in. And now I'm working as a team leader at the Steno Diabetes Center in Aarhus, and cross-affiliated with Aarhus University. So this is in Denmark. So kind of just like taking a big step back, big step back, and like kind of looking at my career path or my academic path, at least in the terms of the titles that I've had and where I've been placed. So the first 2 years was at least in Canada, and I don't know. I think this is across the world, but in Canada, a master's is usually around 2 years. A research master's is around 2 years. And and then after I did my master's, I did this at the University of Toronto. And then after my master's, I did a PhD. I stayed in the same group, and that was also in the University of Toronto, and that was around 4 years. I, the number of years is only for like in Canada, it's I think a minimum of 4 years, but average tends to be around 5 to 5.5. But so I finished like right on time. I was very thankful to my supervisor. Um, and then I stayed in with him, my supervisor, my PhD supervisor, for about 6 months before then I came to Denmark to do a postdoc. And then I was able to get enough funding to stay for some more years at the Senior Diabetes Center as a postdoc. And then finally, I was able to get a little bit more funding to then stay as a team leader. So that's kind of been my like career path, at least in terms of the titles, pretty sort of like standard, I would say. Um, but I did a lot of stuff that was kind of like outside of what might be considered like traditional work. So for both my master's and my PhD, I had to produce publications in order to finish, in order to graduate. But aside from my research, I got a lot more into a lot more like sort of software, data management, and teaching. And that's because that's when during my master's, that's what I saw was like areas that were really missing. Well, first off, the data that I had, it was it's a cohort called Promise. It was a mess. And if anybody is familiar with any research data, most research data is unfortunately quite messy. Um, and so I spent like my a lot of my time during my master's and PhD was spent on organizing that because it was a major source of stress and anxiety for me. I really depend heavily on, is that something that I've learned is I really depend heavily on like structure and organization um, for my stress levels. So during my PhD and during my master's and PhD, I think my heart kind of aged a little during that time. But I was able to convert that into like an R data package so that I could make use of the data in a lot easier way, and also so that my lab mates could make use of the data in a much easier way, and then also future lab mates would make use of the data in a much easier way. I also ended up making like really simple R packages to help my own work. And then another thing that noticed was that like, and I'm sure many of you can probably relate to this. Like, if you're doing any data analysis, like you go to courses that are with stats, but then they like just show you a slide of like, oh, here's how you do it in whatever language, like SAS or R or whatever it is, and then they move on, and you're like, but how do you do that? Um, so I ended up being involved in a group of graduate students where we taught R and Python to other peers because that was something that was missing from our education. So that's kind of like the non-traditional path that I started taking during my master's and PhD. And one of the big things that I learned from that is like really simple stuff of knowing how to effectively organize your files and knowing how to code really helped with productivity in terms of getting stuff done. And just to kind of like highlight, I have no experience in like I had no education in programming or software development or anything like that. But just taking that time to like learn those tools uh, really helped a lot for me, and other people can be able to do that too. So one driving force that I've had is teaching other people how to do that through these R courses that I have been doing in Denmark. So then I started doing my postdoc here in Denmark, and there were many lessons, hard lessons learned. I had naively thought that the data that I had in Canada was messy, it was just messy because maybe the group wasn't as organized. And then I came here, and time again, I noticed more and more mess and disorganization of data. And as I started diving deeper and deeper into this, I realized like there's huge areas that we're behind in research overall, in data engineering, in reproducibility is something I talk about a lot of, and just general programming practices. And so those were like kind of like hard lessons learned. Um, and from that, what I end up like, because again, as I just said, like I get a lot of stress from not having structure and organization. I spent my time making like R packages and organizing the data to make it a little bit easier to work with, or finding or like displaying the information about like what is inside of the data. So with this UK Biobank project, I set up this R package to help both myself and other collaborators working with the UK Biobank. There's this Danish statistics register. So during my postdoc, I wanted to work with the Denmark statistics data, but the application process and finding the documentation it took a year and a half just to get to that point of finally getting the registers. So it was a huge amount of time spent, and I'm like, this shouldn't be the case. So I spent a lot of time making some documentation on how other researchers can be able to spend their like to learn how to do just work on statistics Denmark. And then in the process of, I started working with the Danish registered data, but then again, it was like it wasn't super organized. It was in a very old format, SAS. So if you want to do anything like really big analyses, it takes a lot of time. But I knew there was faster ways of doing it, so I started converting them over into like a more efficient format. Um, so all of this to say is, in that time, I was spending my time learning these things, not publishing. So I actually, oh, and yeah, I'll say that in a little bit. I was also running a lot of workshops, which Matilda also attended, and who also invited me to this talk. So I run 3 different workshops in Denmark every year through the Danish Diabetes and Endocrinology Academy, both an introduction course, an intermediate course, and advanced course in R. And for me, that has been like a huge source of fulfillment. Like, we talk about impact all the time. And I think teaching is one of the most impactful things that you can do, because you see very tangible, like you're helping the next generation of people learn how to do things in a more effective way right now, rather than like writing a paper and who knows how many people in the world actually read it. So that has been a big source of joy and pride for me, is doing these workshops. Uh, but as I was just about to say, a big problem is like if anybody has done any teaching, it's a lot of work, and especially if you want to do it right, there's like a whole science of learning that you have to like. If you want to do it effectively, it's a lot of work. And also doing all of that, like starting to write software, making our packages, organizing data, like that takes time. That takes a lot of time. And what that means is I wasn't publishing. I basically, during my postdoc, I don't think I published a single first author paper. I had a couple of like co-authored papers, but I just couldn't be able to, like, there were very clear problems, very deep problems that I saw that I was like, I need to fix them. I need to spend my time fixing them. So I focused a lot more on building software, on building tools, on teaching, on talking about this stuff all the time. And at one point, my postdoc supervisor at the time, I think it was like 2 or 3 years into my postdoc, maybe it was 2 years, where we just like had a sit down, and he just said, hey, like if you want to go this traditional academic route, like be a professor, get eventually train PhD students, etc. You're going to have to publish a lot more, and like ignore everything else and like keep on publishing, like publish a lot more. But if you don't want to do that, that's also totally fine. And he was very supportive, and he's like, you just have to make a decision. Because I was a little bit kind of going back and forth of like trying to spend my time like doing the research, but then also trying to fix stuff, and I always felt like split. Um, but so he after that like little sit down, like I ended up deciding, I made the choice like either ignore all the broken stuff and just like keep publishing, or try to keep fixing things. And the choice I ended up making was keep fixing things, because like it's really hard to ignore something that's broken and know that I can be able to fix it. So for me, it wasn't exactly a hard choice. It helped to like align my like not feel like split and just be like, I'm not going the academic route. I'm not going to be worrying about publishing papers. I'm just going to be doing this, like focusing on fixing these problems. So for me, it wasn't a hard choice. But the big advantage of that was because I have been going this route, and because I talk about it a lot to like all of my colleagues, and they know about like me ranting all the time about reproducibility and like the problems we have with data. Um, uh, I was invited to help apply for a grant related to this thing. The grant was called for a data infrastructure grant. So it was basically like a software project. It was a software project. Sorry, it was a software grant that included like aspects of improving the data management workflow. So that's when I got on board. I helped write the grant, and actually I kind of like just took over, because I'm like, this is exactly what we need to be doing. I have a very clear vision here. And I just like, it was over a couple of days of just like nonstop writing, dumping everything inside my head into this grant. And I ended up getting I guess we ended up getting the funding, which is what I'm currently working on right now. It's called Seed Case Project. And what we're doing is we're building tools, software tools, to help set up a framework for building the infrastructure for research data. So um, it's kind of like building a blueprint for how you might build a building, and also like all the potential materials you might need for building the building. Kind of like Lego pieces. Like you get the box of the Lego and the instructions for it and how to put it all together, and then you can actually then just follow the instructions and build the Lego piece, and do some modifications that you want. But so that's kind of what I've been spending most of my time on right now, is this aspect, as well as the teaching. So I've just really gone like full software and teaching. So that's kind of like my general career path of kind of like ignoring publishing papers and just like focusing on, I see a need, I see a problem, and I'm going to try to fix it. Um, Now I want to like talk a little bit about like what are the gaps that I've seen, that I think we really need a lot more people involved in this. And like again, this is about career paths and things. Um, these are areas that are like the hole is huge, that like that we're missed, like that the gap is quite big. Um, and one of the things is like we really need to not value publications so much, because there's, as I just said, like there's so much to research than just publications. Like there's teaching, there's mentorship, there's project management, there's writing grants, there's um, uh, uh, um, I think I already said teaching. There's software development. There's managing data. There's actually writing. There's like doing statistics, which is also a huge area. Visualization. Like there's so much aspects to research than just the final publication that is often kind of missed when we just focus on publications. And it's because we have a lot of big problems in academia. One big area that I talk a lot about is reproducibility. Reproducibility, if anybody doesn't know what it is it's when you take the same data, like when you publish a paper and you make a claim, the point of science is that you have to verify that claim. Otherwise, we're pseudoscience. In order to verify it, there's a couple of different ways that you can verify things. There's reproducibility, where you take the exact same data, you take the exact same code or the analysis, and then you find out whether or not, is somebody independently confirms whether what you're claiming in the paper is actually real or not. So same data, same code or analysis. So you should theoretically get the same result as what is being published in the papers. Unfortunately, it's a huge issue that we often we don't have a lot of knowledge on like the extent of the problem. That's because most researchers don't publish code. So we have no way of knowing, even if we could get the data, we have no way of knowing that the steps that they took to be able to get to the claim in the paper is the same steps that is the same steps that an independent person could be able to take. And there's this really cool recent paper, I think it was 1 or 2 years ago, that they did this, where they went on PubMed and they did a very simple search of all articles that have been published ever. And they did a simple search for, does the paper mention GitHub? Does it mention Python? And does it mention notebooks? Now, usually within research, if you're using Python, you're probably using a notebook. So that's usually tied. And in order for you to actually see code, it has to be published somewhere. And usually that's GitHub. So just three keywords in the search. And they were only able to find 3,500 articles of the millions of articles that actually had those keywords. And then from those 3,000 papers, they were actually only able to find around 2,600 or 2,700 GitHub repositories, or like places where the data was actually put on. So it could be that maybe the other ones were private repositories, so they weren't public. But then what they did was that they took all those notebooks. So notebooks are like the code that tells the instructions of like, how do you run the analysis? Like, what is the exact steps that you take to be able to output the result? They got almost 30,000. These are individual files. So they downloaded all those files. They got them onto their own computer, and only about half of them could actually were even valid. So they couldn't even like start up. So only half of them could actually even get to the stage of actually opening up. Then around like 40% could actually then install the dependencies. So like when you run an analysis, usually you're not using code that you've written, you're using code that other people have developed, for instance, like from some statistical model, or if you do any large language models or machine learning, like you're using someone else's code to run your analysis. So that's a dependency. So they couldn't even install a dependency. So around 20%, you couldn't even install a dependency. Then they actually only 4% of the 30,000 or so could actually run without any errors from beginning to end. And then when they actually compared those final results, only about 3% actually had what they claimed was in the paper. So just to highlight, like this is 3% of what they could find. Like this is a huge, huge area that we're missing, that we just completely ignore, that is a key thing to science. It's not about trust. Like science isn't just about trust. I mean, some trust is needed, but it's about verification. Otherwise, we're no different from pseudoscience. So that's kind of like a really big area that I think we're completely missing out on when it comes to science, and it's like a massive hole that we need to fill in terms of expertise going in there. And you want to get your niche and show what area you're building expertise in. Like this is one of them. It's huge. And we really, really need a lot more programming expertise, because in order for you to know how to do reproducibility well, you need to have some programming expertise. And what that means is not publishing papers, because in order for you to get the expertise, you have to spend time learning about programming, and that is your main source of work, is doing the programming, doing the coding. And so we really, really need that a lot. And we need to find some ways, research needs to find some ways of valuing that expertise a lot, because right now we don't really value it too much. There's a really great presentation that was someone in this area had a talk on, and this is on YouTube. You can go into if you search for science's amateur software development. This was, I think, maybe 8 years ago that he did this talk. But basically the way we're kind of like amateurs in many ways when we come to software development. Like that we're like just like we're like little children just banging stuff around. Like we have no idea what we're doing when it comes to this stuff. And oftentimes like, and I've heard this before many times, it's like, but the code runs. Just because it runs doesn't mean it's right. And that's a big thing that we need to recognize a lot more within science. And especially, I think nowadays we're getting such large data sets, um, and trying to reproduce those, like analyzing them and try to reproducing them requires a lot of programming skills. Like it's a completely different set of skills trying to analyze large data because you can't look at the data itself. Like it's just like you have to think about like, okay, this analysis is going to take like 2 days. Do you want to make a mistake and like waste 4 days because then you have to go back and fix the mistake? You really have to learn programming skills in order to do this effectively. But again, we're really not trained. There's not a lot of courses specifically dedicated to training research software development or research programming skills within any PhD or graduate student education. And we really need a lot more research specific software. There's so many problems that are in science that are so specific to us that like are not useful outside of us that we desperately need. And we really need to value that too, not just as like a like software itself is a scientific output, because that's really what we need, especially nowadays if we want to keep up with everything that is happening in the tech world. If anybody does know about AI, that is everywhere. Um, and the other thing too is we really need a lot more higher quality data. Like if anybody is familiar with the UK Biobank, it's a set of researchers that, and also I think several institutions that decided to spend their time making a massive data set that is fairly high quality, and allow other researchers to make use of it. And from that, like thousands of researchers around the world have made use of that. And that is a scientific output. That is an extremely valuable scientific output. So making like high quality data resources is something that is again a big gap that can easily be filled, because making data sets, like it's hard work. It's a lot of hard work to build them, to maintain them, to check them. It's a lot of skills necessary for that. That's basically what we need. So kind of, which is actually perfect timing. Some couple of take-home pieces of advice that I have sort of I feel like I mentioned to people, and I think it's useful here. Um, there's so many opportunities outside of research. So even if like the skills you learn here in academia and your PhD or your postdocs or whatever is so useful in industry. And in industry, they don't care about your publications. They want to know, can you do what we need done? Uh, so if you're being worried about like, oh, I'm not really publishing a lot, and because publishing is hard, sometimes you just hit a lot of bumps along the road, like I did. Outside of academia, they really don't care about publications. It's kind of like grades. Once you get in like out of, university or high school or whatever it is, grades don't matter. Nobody cares if you got an A or 100% or 90% grades. It's like, can you get this stuff done? Are you a good team player? Like, are you friendly? Can you learn quickly? Can you be critical? Like, there's all of these skills are much more important in industry settings than the number of publications that you have. And I really want to like kind of like to end off to like um, almost end off is the skills you gain, the knowledge you develop, the experiences you gain are way more important than the number of publications that you have, because that's what you take with you all of throughout your entire career, and what people in the end can pay you quite a lot of money for is those skills. They don't pay you for the number of publications you have, they pay you for your skills, they pay for your knowledge, they pay for your expertise and your advice. That's what they pay you for. So kind of like again, ending things. I say if you find problems that you enjoy fixing, you should fix them. and dive deep into fixing them, because you will become an expert at fixing them. And I guarantee you, those problems are things that a lot of other people have problems with. And if you know how to solve them, they come to you. So that's my final piece of advice, which is perfect. Now I'm done. Now for
Thank you.
the yeah.
Thank you very much.
Do I stop sharing my screen or?
Yeah, if you want, so you can see everyone at the same time, I guess, or more
Perfect.
people.
Yeah.
Yes. So just to add on what you said, I also was thinking that it was interesting and a good idea to invite you, because we are the Early Career Investigator Committee of the ISBM, right? So we are senior PhD students, I would say, and postdocs. So we are thinking about what we want to do later, and we also are questioning ourselves about the number of publications that we have and how to be productive and so on. So I thought it was pretty relevant to hear about your path and how you made your choices, and also when you gave us the R course. So I was completely new to R, and I was aware of the problem of reproducibility in other field other than data science. But then when you introduced this problem also in the data science world, I thought it would be, especially because at the ISBM we are more and more talking about spatial transcriptomics, which involves a lot of data, and we will be using R and talking about how to use them. I thought it was also interesting to bring this conversation, or start this conversation with the members, and try to think about how we could organize and maybe ask advice to other people who have started to work on these problems. So thank you very much. Is there anyone who has a question so far? Otherwise, I will continue talking. We have one
There's a
question.
hand. Yeah.
Yes.
Hello, Brent Levers from Laurentian University in Northern Ontario. Nice to connect with another Canadian. I guess
Yes, nice.
a couple questions for you with regards to sharing data. One is, you showed that great study showing how there's a large pool of people that report data, and then the amount of usable data obviously decreases as they went with more stringent criteria. Are there recommendations about how to best store data and the code associated with it to avoid bit rot and dependencies that are ephemeral and disappear and not able to be easily reproduced, in order to provide longer term stability to that? So that's the first question. And then the second question is related to just finding data. And so like we have a system that we access here called Borealis, which is a consortium of universities that is a non-commercial, I guess, repository of data. And so there's stuff there, and we cite it in papers and so on. But is there a good resource to find data so that we can be reusing stuff that has been prepared and made available to us to make the most of other people's hard work, I guess?
Yeah. Great questions. Thanks. For the first one, I think it was about like link rot and like missing, like, yeah. So I would say when it comes to like sharing code, easily the best place to put it would be GitHub. And then the advantage of using GitHub is that well, one, like it's pretty stable in terms of like being able to access code that's persistent. But there's I don't know if you've also heard of Zenodo. So Zenodo is a online archival service. So if the Large Hadron Collider, or like CERN in Geneva. So that's where they do like the particle physics. So they maintain Zenodo, because that's how they share some of their data that they generate through Zenodo. And my experience with Zenodo is it's really, really nice service. It's free. You can put in a huge amount of data. It's nonprofit. It's funded by the European Commission. As long as CERN is around, it's probably going to be around, and probably it will stay being around afterwards. And CERN isn't going to be gone anytime soon. Like it just like the amount of billions of euros that they've spent into it is they're still going to be doing a lot of stuff for many years to come. So I personally use Zenodo. There's really nice, Zenodo actually has a connection to GitHub, so that anytime you formally release your code on GitHub, it can have like a connection and upload directly to Zenodo, so you don't have to do it. It's quite a nice flow. You can also put your data up there. So that's, I would recommend, if you're able to publish your data, that's where I would recommend putting it up there. If it's personal data, like personal health data, probably not put it public because of some rules. I know in Canada, the laws around like privacy are not as strict as in the EU with our GDPR. Like it's really difficult to do a lot of stuff with personal health data here. But if you're in like I don't know what field you're in, but if you're like working with animals or cells or anything like that, or even certain types of human data, are completely fine to put public. So I would suggest doing that, using Zenodo, because it's like such a large and well-known, or sorry, it's a large, and like the way that you can interact with it and query it is quite good. And you can actually, there's several like if you use any R packages or like Python packages, they have connections to Zenodo, so you can be able to like query it quite nicely. The second one, what was the second question again?
Finding data or making your data findable easily
Yeah.
by other people.
Yeah, I would say like at least what I use a lot is Zenodo for finding data. That's easily the biggest one. There's also another one like Dryad is not bad. That's for ecology data sets. And I think it's nonprofit organization. There's also Figshare that I've used in the past, but that's a for-profit company, so I'd be a little bit hesitant about like what's their final end goal, like what are they aiming to make, how are they making money? But yeah, so I would say Zenodo is the most generic, and I've found the easiest to use in my experience. Yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for a thought-provoking presentation.
Thanks.
Do we have other questions or comments? Oh, okay, so my turn. So I guess my question is more about the career path and choices. So from what you said, what I understood is that if you invest your time in more fixing problems, then one way to make it how would say, well, not if you don't publish, then an idea is to go teaching, is to communicate a lot about it, and right, is to like I don't find the word right now, but maybe like it doesn't mean if you don't publish that you cannot apply for funding or that you cannot continue in academia, because you are other way also to talk about your work, right? Which is maybe
Exactly.
investing into teaching or talking with your colleagues, I guess.
Yeah.
In this area, like in your area, do you have working groups with other institutes, other labs, to share how you fix problems, and to, other way than teaching, to communicate with others and have more collaborations? Because, for example, if I want to collaborate in science, if I want to collaborate in, I don't know, about with another lab which is working on my cell type, then I just go to them and see what we can do together. When it's more this kind of work which is less visible, then how do you find collaborators? How do you find people that will be able to, help you, and you will be able to help them, and so on?
That's a tough one. Yeah. Back in the day, I would have said like something like Twitter would have been nice. Now I don't. But yeah, that's a great question. I would say a lot of it is just like kind of word of mouth, when it comes to getting collaborations and going to personally my big experience, the thing that I've gained the most in terms of like collaboration or networking or whatever you want to call it has been through teaching these R courses, because like I get to meet everybody from Denmark who is doing some type of like analysis type stuff. Like I see them at all different, like, from early PhD all the way to late postdoc, even early professor. And I see like new ones every single year. And I would say that's probably been the biggest source of like learning about what other people are doing. But if you're not necessarily doing teaching, like even just doing workshops or even attending workshops, there's the Danish Diabetes Academy also has this mentorship program that I'm a part of, that you meet new people, you actually have a lot more conversation with them. And that's, I would say, the biggest source of getting collaborations is like, going to these multidisciplinary events and just chatting with people. I wouldn't say conferences are really that useful. Smaller conferences are fine, but like larger ones, not so much. But any of the social like workshop like events where you can actually sit down and chat with people have been really helpful in actually meeting people and like finding commonality and then eventually setting up a collaboration with them. Having said that, most of my collaborations have been through the same like Steno Diabetes Center, at least in Aarhus. I do have some like connections with the Copenhagen one, but it's mostly through Aarhus. So that's like a local thing. So yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if that answers
You
it.
don't have any. Yeah. I guess I have an additional one, which is you don't have any consortium or like a working group bigger to publish guidelines maybe about like how to increase the reproducibility. Like we have these
I mean,
guidelines for PCR, or
yeah,
how to. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I think, and again, a great question. The thing is that there's already a lot of guidelines for reproducibility out there,
Okay.
and it's not necessarily something of like publishing. It's more of just like getting people to be aware of it, and getting it to be like considered at the institutional level, or even like valued at the institutional level. It's a political problem, not necessarily like it's partly an awareness problem, but also like a little bit of a political problem, because if you're spending time on reproducibility, you're not publishing as much. And if you're not publishing as much at the organizational level, the institutional level, they look bad. They look less good, like in global standings. And that can have impacts on like the amount of funding they get, like, that like kind of like their business model, even though universities don't have a business model, sort of they do, but so it's quite a political problem, I would say, and it's very difficult in terms of reproducibility and the things that I often rant about, when it comes to like actually setting up some consortium, or like some group, cross like national group or something. So at least my personal approach has been, I'm gonna just focus on what I have control over, which is like more of the local, my collaborators. I just don't collaborate with people that aren't valuing this stuff. Easy. And I hope that over time that just like that role model and like it's my belief that if we can improve the programming skills of people and the reproducibility skills of people, then even though at first you'll be publishing less, in the long term you'll be publishing higher quality stuff and more. And so I'm just kind of betting on that in the long term you'll see that we'll be like this is a good direction to go. So like as a role model, oh, if you start doing these practices in like 2 or 3 or 4 years, you'll actually start seeing like the fruits of your labor, if you will. Like you'll harvest what you've sown, type thing. Yeah, but good
Yeah,
question.
I
Yeah,
see.
good
Thank
question.
you. We have a comment in the chat. So it's from Serena. So she's informing about the ORMIR.
Nice.
So yes, so the Community for Open and Reproducible Musculoskeletal Imaging Research. And so there is a lot of work done on open science and reproducibility. So yeah, it's an invitation to connect.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, that's good.
Serena, do you want to talk, or did I? It's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you for reading my my message. I didn't want to intrude, but since you guys were talking about the possibility of connections, and so I thought, like, yeah, we're here in case anybody is interested. I actually myself gave a keynote at the previous conference last year in Toronto about open science and how we do it. So if anybody is interested, feel free to reach out. Thank you.
Nice. Cool. Thanks.
Thank you. Yes.
I
That's what.
often
Yeah.
visit Canada to see my family, so maybe I'll stop. You said you're in Toronto or no?
Oh, no, I'm actually in
Oh, that
Switzerland.
the conference was in
The
Toronto. Oh, sorry.
conference,
Right.
yeah, the
Okay. Gotcha.
conference. No,
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
I'm based in Switzerland right now.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's also why I guess to bring awareness, the webinars are also a good tool. So that's also yeah, a way to bring everyone together and start conversations and connections. Anyone else has questions or want to add anything to the discussion? Okay. What else do I have in my notes? Maybe so. Yeah, you talked about the stress related to not organized or unorganized data, but it can be also very stressful to, what you said, spend time on things that that won't bring publications directly. Do you have and yes, you can make the choice to the conscious choice to go for fixing problems and not investing in more short-term, middle-term publication. How do you manage that? What do you tell to yourself? What's how like, yes, you have made a choice, but then you just tell yourself, okay, maybe I give up on academia while doing it, but at least I have fun. Or
Yeah.
How?
Yeah. I think that's a really kind of close to it. Is like I say like this is. I see these problems and I'm going to talk about them and I'm going to try to fix them and I'm going to rant about them. As you've heard during my courses, I rant about this stuff quite a lot. And if nothing happens, then like I know I've been like I keep doing stuff that I enjoy doing, so I'm not necessarily losing out. I'm in my mind, I'm winning still. And I also know like because I'm learning all these skills, like I don't feel worried about my career, like if I don't stay in academia, which technically I'm not in academia anymore. But if well, no, I guess I am kind of I'm in a weird transition place. I don't know exactly where I am when it comes to, I guess, no, technically I'm in academia, but anyway. Oh, I lost my train of thought. Yeah,
To
so
tell
like
yourself,
yeah, to tell myself like I like what I'm doing, and like a motto that I live by is like when I'm on my deathbed and I look back, what will I not regret doing, and like choices have I made that I won't regret. Obviously there's always going to be some level of regret, you can't escape that, but at least for me, like I know I really enjoy doing what I'm doing. I work with great people, and I'm like and I also know like the skills that I'm getting and the knowledge that I'm gaining, they're applicable outside of academia. So I don't feel like I'm worried about like not having a job outside of academia. So that helps with my decision making and then how I feel, if that makes sense.
yes, completely. Thank you for sharing.
Very
Do we
welcome.
have any other comments? No? Okay, so I guess maybe we can summarize and just have the re-talk about your take-home message. So find what's useful for you, and if there is something to fix and you feel like fixing it, then go for it, right?
Exactly.
And
That's
maybe
it. Yep.
communicate about it, like
Yes,
educate,
exactly.
communicate,
Yep. Yep. Yep.
reach out, and that would be also nice if people who are watching you doing that work then could also communicate about it, so it will raise more awareness, and yeah, have fun.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yes, thank you very much. And
Thank
thanks for
you.
the
Thank
invitation.
you.
Yep. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.